Welcome back. If you've been watching part one, you'll see that we did quite a bit of kind of looking through the electrics on this to discover that the ignition switch had an issue with it, which at the moment we're using just a link across a couple of connectors to get it running. We also looked at the carbs, strip those down, clean them up. Next steps is to look at front brakes. We've got bit of corrosion, and I can see level wise it's right down here. This lever comes right back to the bars, so we're going to clean that out, bleed them, pop off the calipers, check what the pads are like. The discs feel good, actually. There's no major lips on those. There's good meat left on those discs, so both those. And then we'll start to take a look at the rear diff oils. Looks like we've got a little bit of a leak. That doesn't really look too much though. And just generally check out any grease points as well. I'm assuming we've got some in here within axle, so we'll just make sure that we're fully greased. I need to check in where those grease points are, see if there's any grease nipples fitted. But yeah, that'll then do us, I believe, on the kind of major works, stroke safety works. We'll also check on rear pads as well. I'm guessing this has got shoes in it, but yeah, I need to check those out as well. So this will be get it up on a jack and get that rear wheel off. Let's take a look in there. That is empty. It does have a little bit of bite on it when you push it backwards and forwards, so I'm guessing there's just some in the tube, just about, but we'll give that a flush through. Catch the springs. Needs new pads. What I'll do is pop that pad back in so I can bleed these through. Otherwise I'm just going to push the pistons out. There's only one single bleed screw on this. We've got the main feed and a linked pipe over to the other side. And there we go with the bleed, which will pop open and just start feeding liquid through. Right, I've just taken another look in here, and actually what we're going to do, we need to get some of that crap out of there. As you can see, it's kind of all congealed. So we're going to pop this lever off, undo it at the banjo, and give that a good flush out, and then see if what we can get down the tube rather than feeding it through this. Right, that's off, and we'll let it soak in brake cleaner for a little while, just to soften up any of the harder stuff that's in there. Right, so most of that's cleaned out. As you can see, there's quite a bit of crap come out of that, and I've scratched off a lot of the corrosion that was on the outside as a result of the brake fluid. There's no point in spraying that. There's not many paints that will withstand brake fluid if I get any more over it for the moment. So we'll see what the customer wants to do. All I need to do for the moment is just get this roadworthy, or at least in a safe state, so that the cosmetic side of it, the customer can carry on with. So yeah, got that cleaned out. What we'll do is get it back on and pump some fluid through it, and see if we can get the brakes bled. If you are doing brake lines and you've taken a banjo bolt off, then it's always a good idea to put some new crush washers on. So I've got a couple for the right size for this. You can get away with it sometimes, but you know, if they've been on there a long time and been well crushed, likelihood of getting a perfect seal, 80% maybe, something like that, but you're always best to put some new ones on. So I've got more fluid back in this. There's air in the system at the moment. So we'll move around to the other side where I've got the bleed screw set up with a tube into a container, and then we'll undo that and start pumping through air and hopefully fluid. Okay, so now we've got some feel on the lever. I'm pumping that. That lever isn't coming out anymore, so there's no air in that. No, that is the normal feel, but I'll leave that to settle and try it again in a minute. Top up the fluid. Lever and grip is back on. That's an interesting Chinese puzzle in there, with the way you've got two separate cables here rather than a splitter like a Japanese bike does. And there's a little aluminium block that you fit the two cables into, and a small chain on a rotating wheel within here. And to get them all in and linked into this, you've also got to push this grip in, because there's a slot on the end of this top cover that sits into the grip and holds a knurled cog into that wheel. So it's kind of like you need four hands to try and get the cables on, this held in, screw in, but I've got it there, and now all okay. Filled up, brake works, sorted. I'm used to the Japanese way of spring and clip attachments on these. These are a little bit different, not difficult to understand. So when you push the first pin through, it hooks or goes straight through one end of this retaining spring. You then have a little separate rod that you drop into the groove of the top of the pads and lay that over. and then you come to put the next pin in. You've got to push that spring down to go under the pin. There we go. And then tap that pin home. There, and the pads are now held in with that spring over the top. There isn't any screws on the pins or threaded pins. What then goes on is the plastic cap, which covers the ends of those pins. They're not going to come off as long as the plastic cap is there. So a little bit different from Japanese. Next we get the rear wheel off. Check out the pads, shoes in the rear. So what I've done is just put a bit of wood in to chock the wheel, and it will catch on or exhausts and rack and shaft. So now I can get the leverage I need to get the nuts undone. There we go. That's that one coming on. One. Somebody's got a bit of copper grease on those. Not the best, but at least someone's been here. There we go, easy as that. Now let's see if we can wiggle it out. I need to jack it up a little. Let the pads look. So just jacked it a bit and stuck a wooden block under each side of the centre stand. Central position jack is not stable on this, obviously. So now it's back on the centre stand, but just slightly higher. There we go. Braking surface is good. A little lip on the edge, nothing too serious. Yep, and just loads of brake dust. Tyre looks good on this as well. So, just about seeing there. Yeah, the shoes are all good. Quite a lot of brake dust in there. But no, that's all good. I'll put the wheel back in for now. That really doesn't need anything doing to it. So next up is the check the diff oil. What we've got going on here, I believe I've seen people refer to this as a vent hole as well, but I believe that might be just your filler. Yeah, from the top here. There is a plastic cap that seems to be fitted on the top of it that's quite tight, but you can see all the way through to that plastic. So that is a kind of a vent in some way. And then on the back side here, which I've started to undo, is what I think is the level plug. So to get your oil level right. So I've already started on that, and it's already started leaking out at me, so I think there's going to be plenty in there. So, yes, yeah, there's plenty, and that looks pretty clean as well. Let's put the plug back in. Yeah, and that's got a the typical EP 80-90 smell to it. So correct oil in the rear, and plenty of it by the look of it. So that's pretty much all the basic checks done. What we'll do now is give it a clean, and it does need it, and get some of this dust and muck off it. I think it will look a whole lot better for it. And then we just need to have a chat with the customer about what the next steps are. Time for a bit of a clean. In part one, you saw me using a product, which was this one, Fenwick's Concentrated Bike Cleaner. Not associated with them, but I do think it's quite good. It's cheaper than the muck off stuff, but I was using it in the ultrasonic as an extra kind of cleaner within the adjutants. But you mix this up, it says on is that dilutes to 11 litres. So what I've done, I've got it mixed up here. I'm going to spray this on, brush it in, and just generally work around, and you'll see kind of how much cleaner we can make this with this product. Muck off is a little bit expensive. This works out probably about half the price once you've diluted it, and it's as effective. There we go, much better. Everything looks so much better for a clean. Okay, that's pretty much all we're going to do on this one. I probably have got one more job, and that's just kind of look over the tank. But as I said, I do need to have a chat with someone first and decide what the next steps are as to whether we're going to be doing a complete tear down or getting it back to kind of original.